I'm the wrong guy to ask that question to. I never quit.
I will not run for speaker again. I'll have the conference pick somebody else.
A lot of people have been calling me about speaker. All I can say is we'll do whatever's best for the country.
House Republicans have nominated Steve Scalise moments ago as their new speaker.
Steve Scalise has just announced, apparently inside the Republican conference, that he's withdrawing his name from the speakership.
We'll go to the floor tomorrow.
Congressman Jim Jordan just won a closed-door vote with his Republican caucus.
Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan fell short of winning the speakership on his second vote, this time by an even bigger amount.
The speaker has not been elected.
What's your advice to the next House Speaker?
That's a bugly pig.
What's up, DC? Welcome to Pod Save America. I'm John Favreau.
I'm Symone Sanders-Townsend.
We have an outstanding show for you tonight. John Fetterman is here. Virginia State Senate candidate Jennifer Carroll Foy is here. Chef José Andrés is here. And we are so lucky to be joined by our old friend, part of the Crooked family, and now the host of Symone on MSNBC, Symone Sanders-Townsend. All right. Would anyone here like to be Speaker of the House? It's competitive pay, great benefits. Second in line to the presidency. The House of Representatives has now been without a speaker for 16 days. First, Republicans took down Kevin McCarthy, then they voted down Steve Scalise, and now they have twice denied the gavel to a guy who never really liked elections in the first place, Jim Jordan. So they almost decided to give the job to interim Speaker Patrick McHenry, at least until January. But when Republicans realized that would require them to do some truly crazy shit, like work with Democrats, hold votes, govern, they ditched that plan. And then they started screaming and swearing at each other in a closed-door meeting today. Some Republicans complained about the death threats they were getting because they voted against Jordan. Some of them were waving around their pocket constitutions, apparently. One guy left to go pray the rosary, and then one guy looked like he was about to kick Matt Gaetz's ass. So, I mean, sounds like a great workplace culture. I wish I was there. Symone, what do you think Matt Gaetz and his 7 goofballs have accomplished by overthrowing Kevin McCarthy?
I mean, utter chaos. They have accomplished utter chaos. If y'all thought it was chaotic before, it was amateur hour at the OK Corral last week, honey. This is something new. I just think it's so insane because, like, where does it end? You know, like, my money was always on that Speaker McCarthy was going to get ousted. He wasn't going to survive the whole continuing resolution, debt limit situation. But where do we go from here? Because the only person that has managed to get enough votes to get close to 217 has been Hakeem Jeffries. Like, where are 5 of those Republicans that sit in districts that Joe Biden won? Where are 5 of those House Republicans who are willing to say, you know what? We're going to vote for Hakeem, and maybe he'll back us in the next year and give us a little money so we don't lose. I don't know. It's just absolutely crazy. It's embarrassing. And Joe Biden can send whatever packages he wants to send to Congress. Without a Speaker of the House, no package is going to pass anything.
Dan, why has it been so hard for Republicans to elect a speaker? Can Kevin McCarthy, by the way, he's been saying this every day for the last 2 weeks. He's still saying it's Democrats' fault. Even after everything that happened today, it's Democrats' fault that they can't elect a speaker.
That's what got him in this in the first place. To be very clear, that's what
Yeah.
got him in this mess. The Democrats probably, not even probably, I know for a fact from all of the Democratic members of Congress I spoke to, had Kevin McCarthy not gone on television with Margaret Brennan, love Margaret, shout out to Margaret Brennan, okay, but gone on television with Margaret Brennan and blamed Democrats after they helped him fund the government, keep the government open, he probably would still be the Speaker of the House.
On the blaming of Democrats, it really is this sort of like, child of divorce. You're yelling at mom because you know mom cares. Mom is the one who you can hurt, and dad's fucking gone.
BetterHelp.
Brought to you by BetterHelp.
Anyway, Dan.
The question was to Dan.
It is funny that Kevin McCarthy lost his speakership 16 days ago, and we no longer have to care what the junior member from Bakersfield thinks.
It's just a backbencher now.
He doesn't even have a committee. Who cares what he says? I think there are 3 reasons why the Republicans can't pick a speaker. The first is, and this has come as a shock to everyone, these are not the sharpest knives in the drawer.
Yeah, no.
Some would say they're spoons.
Don't disrespect spoons like that. Disrespectful.
It's just Gates didn't think it through. Scalise didn't think it through. Jim Jordan clearly hasn't thought it through. They don't really know what they're doing. They have no solution. Now, the second problem is the Republican Party is no longer a coherent party. For a long time, they at least organized themselves around smaller government, lower taxes, let corporations do whatever they want, invade countries willy-nilly. But they have nothing in common now, right? Like, just think of, it's just a coalition of people who largely disagree about what they stand for and disagree on who they hate. And so you have people who are neocons who want to invade every country. You have people who are supporting Russia and opposing all this funding that Biden wants to spend. You have people who love Trump, people who hate Trump, people who pretend to love Trump. You have the people, the Matt Gaetzes and the Marjorie Taylor Greenes who are just kind of there for the lulz. You have the Paul Ryan descendants who want to cut Medicare. You have the populists. They stand for nothing, so they can't. There's no purpose, collective purpose for being there. So they can't agree. There's no urgency. There's nothing they want to pass collectively that would make them actually put aside petty grievances to pick a speaker. And the third reason is Congress is 1/6 of the government. The House of Representatives is 1/6 of the government, and they hate government. Like, they don't want to do anything. They exist to destroy government. And so the idea that they would put aside, take tough votes to try to make government work is such a foreign concept to them that they can't possibly do it. Like, you don't hire arsonists to be firefighters, and that's what this is.
Yeah, I know. They make the argument that government can't work, and then they go about proving it. So Tommy, I will admit, I was kind of surprised that Jordan didn't get it today or yesterday, only because I figured when everyone was like, oh, Sean Hannity's producers sending out letters, they're threatening people, right? And I was like, usually when like the MAGA wing of the party, which is now most of the party, when they start threatening more establishment Republicans, they end up getting their way, and the Republicans cave. But apparently, were you surprised that not everyone caved to Jim Jordan's threat?
I don't know if it's surprised. I mean, look, we might eat these words tomorrow, but so far it seems like maybe he's bad at politics. I'm not even trying to be glib. Like, he's a sort of, there's some people, like Dan was just saying, like, there's some people who perform MAGA and then some, like, people who believe the MAGA. And he believes the MAGA. And I think he has read, like, one history book, and he knows that congressional leaders...
It was written by Brett Baer.
Hey, I got him a $30 million house. Brett, that is. He's read like one book, and he knows that, Nancy Pelosi would like bust some heads to get votes. But that was once she had the power, not like on the way to trying to get the power. So he clearly offended all these moderates. Then he completely backtracked, and he supported this short-term plan to empower McHenry. That pissed off all the people on the right, and now they're just scrambling. And, you know, basically all they're doing is like making poor Jake Sherman just like sprint up and down the Capitol. You know? Oh, we found the one place that gets that joke. I love it.
Just like a lot of siren emojis all the time.
It says so much about the state of the Republican Party and the right-wing media that we all legitimately believe that Sean Hannity's producer was going to close the deal with an email.
Well, the one thing that, like, sort of, you know, a lot of these people, their incentive is to get on television and get headlines and raise money that way and to make a name for themselves. And Matt Gaetz, Jim Jordan, the thing about becoming this kind of basically right-wing influencer via Congress is it's not a team sport, it's parallel play, you know? And these are a bunch of toddlers who haven't yet learned to play together. They can sit in front of a camera and they can have fun by themselves. But they don't get sharing yet.
Yeah. We'll love it, like. Here's what surprised me is that, so some of the people who voted against Jordan are in safe districts and they voted against him for different reasons. Some of them are much more conservative than you would have expected. About a dozen Republicans who are sitting in districts that Joe Biden won voted for Jim Jordan as Speaker. They are sitting there in Biden districts and they voted for Jim Jordan. How much of a political liability do you think that will be all the way in 2024 when people go vote a year from now? And if you were running a race against those Republicans, what would you say?
I think, first of all, so one of those goofballs is a guy named Mark Molinaro. He's a Republican who narrowly flipped a Biden district. And here's what he said. He said, most people, this is why he ran as a kind of, bipartisan Republican who, isn't like these kooks. He said, he voted for Jordan. Most of the people I represent wouldn't know the Speaker of the House if they backed over them with a pickup truck. which is quite an endorsement of Jim Jordan. I don't think they could identify the body, therefore I'm a yes. I do think it's incumbent upon us to make it a liability. And look, do I think that we'll be still talking about this speaker's race a year from now? Probably not, but I do think we'll be trying to tell a story about Republican extremism. And in one of the most important votes these people will ever face, a moment where voting no could really make a difference, deciding to say no to Republican extremism could really make a difference, they decided that for their own personal, craven, partisan needs, they were going to support an agenda of someone who believes in an abortion ban, not at 12 weeks, not at 6 weeks, but at the moment of conception, someone who voted for the insurrection, who participated in the insurrection, one of the most extreme members of Congress, and beyond his terrible policy views, is one of the most radical and toxic and mean-spirited people in politics who practices the kind of politics that the vast majority of Americans say they reject and don't want to have to vote for. So I think we have to tell that story, and this is a part of that story.
I think they'll be calling John to cut the ads. You got your ad business up, they're going to be calling you to cut the ads.
Ooh. Okay, sure, yeah.
There we go.
I mean, I think that is correct. And on top of all of that, the one thing that Jim Jordan was in charge of this Congress, the weaponization committee, and the first hearing that they had, all of the Republican witnesses were like, there's really no there for this impeachment.
Yeah, did not roll that out well.
It didn't go well, but I just, I think that every single, and we've reached out to invite some of these members on my show this weekend, but I think that every single member that voted for Jim Jordan should be made to answer for why. Put a camera in their face, put a microphone in front of their mouth, and ask them, because they are accountable to their constituents. And I also think for the folks who voted no, put a camera in their face, put a microphone in front of their mouth, and make them say it. There's apparently going to be another opportunity tomorrow to vote again?
Yeah, so Jim Jordan has not dropped out, even though he met with the 20 holdouts tonight, and every single meeting went poorly. None of them have changed their minds. And so he took that to mean, keep going. So he's going to hold on to the votes. They said they might hold votes over the weekend. Meanwhile, Patrick McHenry is like, I don't want to be temporary speaker. It's not going to happen. I don't think I have the powers of the speaker without a vote. So I don't know. I actually don't know where they go from here, because it seems like first of all, if there was a Republican who could get 217, that person, we would know who that person is by now. So I don't know that this gets resolved without them finally reaching out to Democrats or doing it with Democratic votes.
It's literally how the government got funded. We kept the government open because Republicans and Democrats worked together, even though at the time Speaker McCarthy said, I will never do this. We are not going to do that. I'm not bringing a clean continuing resolution to the floor, and he ended up doing it. And again, it passed with more Democratic votes than Republican votes. I think eventually this is where they will land. It is already utterly embarrassing, but there are catastrophic consequences for not having a Speaker of the House, for the House of Representatives not to be able to do business. And a number of Republican members of Congress went on television today and said, no, the business of the House is still happening, and we were on recess last week. No, the business of the House is actually not happening, and the government runs out of money on November 17th.
Yeah, you got less than a month to fund the government.
And they don't even work that long. Let's just be very clear. They got a couple more days at work.
They go to recess.
And they go to recess.
It's
so
mostly
what's going on?
it's mostly Tuesday to Thursday.
Yes, truly.
Well, we'll see what happens. When we come back, we will talk to Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman. Joining us now, the junior senator from Pennsylvania and a friend to all of us who believe that every day should be Casual Friday, John Fetterman. Hello there.
I'm fantastic. Thank you. It's great to be here.
First question, and I'm sorry I have to ask this, but am I speaking to the real John Fetterman?
No, just like in Colbert, I'm actually the body double, and John is looking forward to seeing it at home. And but I got to tell you, I found out that you had crudités in your green room, and I didn't. And I was very explicit about the rider, in our contract.
We like to call it a veggie tray, in honor of you.
I've heard that before.
So you were last on the show about a year ago after you had suffered a stroke during your Senate campaign. How is your recovery going, and how are you feeling?
It's fantastic. I'm able to be here with you right now, too, and right now I'm able to fully participate in my life as a senator, and I have the captioning, and that is effectively just like if any of you in the audience wear glasses, that you see a book or whatever, and you are not able to read it if you don't have your glasses. Doesn't mean you don't know how to read, of course. It's a tool, and this is a tool that allows me to fully participate. If I just will say that, it has made me. I already thought I was a very empathetic kind of guy, but now after this, just how incredibly important that we have the kind of technology for anyone with disabilities, and making sure that they are to participate fully in our society.
You made what I can only imagine must have been an incredibly difficult decision, not only to seek help for depression, but to speak publicly about your struggle. How did you ultimately make that decision?
I didn't really have to make a choice. I had to. After the stroke, it was incredibly difficult in the sense that I essentially, lost my life briefly, and at that point after, there wasn't a lot of, it's all going to work great after the doctors. It was just kind of like, but thankfully I was able to make a really recovery. And then after the campaign, and realizing that I'm going to have to run for the Senate in the most visible and the biggest race in the nation, and the Senate, control is riding on it, and I had to, relearn how to speak and do it in a way that doesn't become the brunt of Fox News, and it really became a fetish, and it was like candy for Fox News, And I just had to realize that's how it was going to be. But then throughout all of it, and then after I won, and that's when the depression really hit. And I broke my children's heart, and they didn't understand why I couldn't get out of bed. The day after the election, I couldn't get out of the bed, not because I was tired, but because I didn't want to. And they were like, Daddy, you won? What's wrong? Why aren't we enough and everything? And I continued to really, and I knew that I wasn't going to come back in. And after nearly dying, from a medical crisis, to be put on the path of losing your life by your own hand was part of how things went. And now I'm so happy to talk about mental health, because I want everybody to understand that if you are suffering from depression or you have these issues, I'm begging you, please get help. Please seek it out. You do not need to suffer. You do not need to suffer. And absolutely, please listen. I know you have a huge platform. To anyone who hears this, please don't ever hurt yourself, because it's a kind of blackness that I've never encountered in my life, and you could taste it and you can smell it, and it's so dark that I will never ever go back to that. And please, people need help. So
well, we are all so happy that you got help, and that you are and that you're talking about it to help other people. That's very courageous. All right, so I heard you tell a reporter, we were just talking about the speaker race. I heard you tell a reporter this week that House Republicans need to get their act together and decide which dick is going to be speaker.
Yeah.
And
it was like, okay, a couple weeks ago, it was like, okay, it was Dick 1 or Dick 2.
Well,
and now it's mystery Dick. Who's it going to be? And it's like
it seems like they're still dickless right now. They're dickless.
Yeah, I mean, and that is such a sad bench, to pick for, and yeah.
Well, it's like there's that going on. It seems like Congress can't do anything but pass a resolution to stop you from wearing a hoodie on the Senate floor. Have there been moments when you thought, man, I had a pretty good gig in Pennsylvania. Like, what the hell did I come here for?
Wait, did you heard about the dress code issue?
Oh yeah, I think we heard something about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I was so right. I mean, my God, it's so more important if I dress like a slob, that, I mean, there might be Israel or Ukraine or not having the government shut down. And let's talk about, and also, can I have a story about that? Really?
Yes, please.
Yeah. And really, it was kind of dying off. And then, of course, my colleague from West Virginia, kind of took it upon it to really honor, everything. And he said, I'm going to have this resolution, and can I support this? And I was like, sure, because I want to be clear, I never asked for that. I mean, I never went to Leader Schumer and like, hey, dude, I want to dress like this. Is that cool? So, but again, and he's like, well, here, I hope you can, sign this. And I'm like, sure, I'll take it. And I'm like, I'll go back to the office and read it. And then a staffer said, hey, it's called Shorts. It's the Shorts Act. So he created like an acronym to be clever. Like, I was just like giggle. They were sitting around their office thinking how clever.
I was gonna say, that was like a whole day of staff's work.
Yeah, no, I was yeah.
Well, we have this for you. There's Revolting Slob. I know this is one of your.
And I mean, it was really sandbagging me, and I'm like, and I was really upset. But then I realized, hey, you're not going to be around much, and I'll probably get his parking space too.
It's wild. So you called out some of your progressive colleagues this week for blaming the Gaza hospital explosion on Israel, and you said in a statement, quote, "We can talk about a ceasefire after Hamas is neutralized." So what do you say to people? Including a lot of Israelis who absolutely agree that Hamas needs to be neutralized, but are worried that a massive ground invasion of Gaza could lead to tens of thousands of more civilian casualties, a bigger war in the Middle East, and ultimately potentially a less secure Israel.
No, it's terrible. It's an awful situation, absolutely as well too. And I value my children. I have 3 children, the lives of my children with an Israeli child or a Palestinian child and all that. I mean, nobody wants, civilians. We have to make sure of the welfare of the civilians. But it's to remember that Hamas doesn't want peace. He doesn't want to be negotiated with, they massacred, innocent children, women, and now they have over 200 hostages with them right now as well too. So I really believe that I'm always going to decide to stand on the side of Israel, in this place. And also after the hospital tragedy, now we know that it was Islamic Jihad, and they tried to blame it on Israel on top of that as well too, compounding that. And I was disappointed by a lot of the media outlets that now kind of pushed that narrative, coming out immediately saying, well, Hamas says that it was an Israeli rocket, which we all now agree that that wasn't the case.
So speaking of foreign entanglements that are dividing the Democratic Party, got to ask you about Bob Menendez, who you apparently confronted on an escalator this week about his refusal to resign after being indicted for bribery and acting as a foreign agent for the Egyptian government. So first of all, good for you.
He's got to go, and it's astonishing. Is there anyone in your audience can explain gold bars in your mattress? Does anyone keep $500,000 in cash randomly across your house? And he claimed it was for emergencies. And then I thought, yeah, okay, well, my wife and we went to Costco and got an extra flashlight for emergencies around the house. So I'm sure it's pretty. And then, so let's double down. Let's double down on the sleaze where now it was discovered that his then girlfriend, slammed into and killed a pedestrian and was just talking about how it jumped on her windshield and everything, and she was never tested or anything like that, and was worrying about how do I get a new car. And then if you just can't get any more sorted, it was like, now he was a foreign agent. So,
why do you think that there are still some Senate Democrats, including Leader Schumer, who still haven't called on him to resign? That's what I can't understand.
I don't know why, and I don't speak for obviously the leader or anyone else, but I do believe that that's what's appropriate. And I want to be clear too, it's not like we need to keep him around because he needs his vote like he said or anything like that. Because, Governor Murphy could appoint a House plant, and they could vote for Democrat votes, until there was an election. And so it's really only about it's just his own self-interest. And it's absolutely, and if you're more offended because the way I dress versus, and I also want to recommend, this is the second time to the dance of being indicted by the feds. So,
Yeah, it's a lot of indictments. So voters, and not just Republicans and independents, but also Democrats, keep telling pollsters they are worried about Joe Biden's age, and they don't think he's done enough to bring down prices, even though inflation is starting to come down. What advice would you give to the president on how he can keep Pennsylvania blue, very tough state, very competitive state, in 2024?
Yeah, no, honestly, John, and it's not bravado or partisan. I fundamentally know that President Biden is going to win Pennsylvania. I really believe that. If it is Trump, Joe Biden will win in Pennsylvania. I absolutely. Allegedly he won in 2020. but Pennsylvania loves Joe, and really I will say that I don't believe that some of the really pointed kind of criticisms of fellow Democrats against the president they're not helpful at all. And I really would like to remind everyone just how tough he was. And he went through, I thought I had it, rough in my race, as the Senate. But, he had the ultimate crucible in 2020 and said that through it. And he did the right thing, and he did a great job, after it. And he's still doing it. And here he just put on a masterclass of diplomacy going to Israel just a couple days ago. And again, I will say this true, is like, can you imagine what this circumstances would be like now if Trump was in the White House? What would be happening now in the Middle East or any of these other things too? And, you cannot avoid a story about inflation. But guess what? They addressed it, and it's going down. And what happened to all the articles or anything? And so I'm proud to stand for Joe Biden, with Joe Biden, and he's incredibly strong, and I really believe he is going to prevail on that.
All right.
I do.
Well, that's great. Senator Fetterman, thank you so much for joining us. It's so great to have you here. Thank you so much.
Today's presenting sponsor is Simply Safe Home Security. Do you guys like haunted hay rides?
I do.
I do too. I haven't been on one in a long time.
Let's all go.
All right.
Let's record a spot.
But when we leave our homes, at least, love it, you're going to be protected by Simply Safe, right?
I set up a Simply Safe system, and you can too.
Because the one time you should never be scared is at home. That's why we recommend Simply Safe. Right now, you can save 40% on any new Simply Safe system. It's the best security system of 2023, according to U.S. News & World Report and John Lovett.
App's great, works great. Highly recommend it. You don't get another one, get this one.
Also, satisfaction is backed by Simply Safe's money-back guarantee. Try Simply Safe for 60 days risk-free. If you don't love it, return your system for a full refund. For a limited time, save 40% on any new system with a Fast Protect plan. Visit simplysafe.com/crooked. That's simplysafe.com/crooked. There's no safe like Simply Safe. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. You guys ever have a time in your life when you knew it was good for you, but your brain was getting in the way?
All the time.
That's right. That's right. Like sometimes I try to fall asleep at night, but my mind's just racing. It keeps me awake.
I had a nightmare that we were on a plane together and there wasn't enough room in the overhead bin.
Oh no, that's not the nightmare I'd have about a plane. But so that'd be a welcome nightmare.
And then I was up at 4 a.m. and I was like, "What should I do now to fall back to sleep?" I know, I'll read the news.
Oh God, it's always.
Did that help?
Yeah,
probably not. Do you ever feel like your brain is getting in its own way? Like you know what you should do, what's good for you, but you just can't do it? Therapy helps you figure out what's holding you back so you can work for yourself instead of against yourself. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Make your brain your friend with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/PSA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/PSA, betterhelp.com/PSA. Pod Save America is brought to you by Squarespace. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform for building your brand and growing your business online. Stand out with a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything, your product, the content you create, even your time. Get started with the best-in-class website template and customize it to fit your needs. Browse the category of your business to find a perfect starting place. Sell your products on an online store. In an online store?
Sure.
Yeah. Whether you sell physical or digital products, Squarespace has the tools you need to start selling online. What summer product do you think would be a good thing to sell right now?
Acid to burn off your fingerprints if you left something behind after a tour.
The old White House.
Yeah, White House.
Yeah, putting the white in the house, you know?
Yep.
And you'll stand out in any inbox with Squarespace email campaigns. Collect email subscribers and convert them into loyal customers. Start with an email template and customize it by applying your brand ingredients like site colors and logo. Built-in analytics measure the impact of every send. Go to squarespace.com/crooked for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, use offer code CROOKED to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
All right, let's get into the fun stuff. President Biden has returned from a quick trip to Israel, where he met with Bibi Netanyahu, convinced him to allow food and medical supplies into Gaza, and pledged $100 million in humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people. Biden is now the only president to have visited not one but two active war zones, and just minutes ago, right before we started, finished up a primetime Oval Office address to the nation where he asked Congress for $100 billion to support the people of Israel and Ukraine, whose struggles he linked in his speech. Let's listen.
I know these conflicts can seem far away, and it's natural to ask, why does this matter to America? So let me share with you why making sure Israel and Ukraine succeed is vital for America's national security. You know, history has taught us that when terrorists don't pay a price for their terror, when dictators don't pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos and death and more destruction.
So we just watched the speech backstage. Tommy, what did you think of Biden's message and then overall his trip to Israel?
So we caught most of the speech backstage. It seems like he's trying to do something very hard, sort of an inside game and an outside game. I think the outside game is trying to explain to the public a very complicated thing, which is why the wars in Ukraine, in Israel, and supporting our allies there matter to us, matter to American security. And there's sort of an inside game, which is trying to get Congress to get its act together to pass this big funding package and to do it quickly. The trip to Israel, look, first of all, I respect the hell out of President Biden's willingness to tackle these problems head on, literally put himself at risk, both in Israel and by going to Kyiv earlier this year. I mean, that takes a lot of guts. It really does. I think that I know people who were in the room with him in Israel, had a meeting with him. Like, it's incredibly meaningful to a country that's gone through just unbelievable, historic, horrific trauma. And I think it meant a lot to the entire country. I think that, I hope that behind the scenes, he was able to talk to Netanyahu about not rushing whatever happens next, whether it's a ground offensive, hopefully reining back the clip of these airstrikes, focusing more on allowing humanitarian relief into Gaza, because, there are a lot of innocent people who are suffering. I saw that he got on the phone with the president of Egypt on the way home from Israel. He convinced them to allow 20 aid trucks into the Gaza Strip. That is a start. We should just be honest, though, that 20 trucks is not going to do what it takes to take care of 2 million people. I thought the message that he brought of, let's not repeat the mistakes that we made in America in 9/11 was a powerful one and a really important one. I just want to make sure that Netanyahu listens. And some of the initial reports coming out of the trip suggest that it's going to take a bit. It's going to take some more repeating of that message. The Israeli War Cabinet does not have a plan for the day after a ground invasion, and that is understandable because they didn't know that the attack on the 7th was going to happen. So obviously they didn't have time to plan, but hopefully they heard that note of caution. My anxiety long-term, though, is that the picture of Biden and Netanyahu hugging at the airport, sort of sitting side by side, will suggest to a lot of the world that Israel's response is also America's response, no matter how well or badly it goes. And it just means we take ownership of something that could be very scary, could lead to a lot of civilian casualties. And so, that's my note of caution. But I hope that Biden, through this aggressive diplomacy and really bold diplomacy, is able to get Netanyahu to think twice, be cautious, not act rashly, and hopefully he can save some civilian lives.
So, Symone, both the trip and the speech were high stakes moves that required a lot of planning in a short period of time. Having been in the White House, what's it like to put all that together? And what kind of domestic political considerations do you think went into these decisions?
So one, I think, as you all know, is stressful to put those kind of things together. But I think that the folks know I used to work for the president. I think he himself, Joe Biden will tell you that he is his best political advisor, as I think every president will tell you. And he has deep ties when it comes to foreign policy. He served as the chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He, I think, has said on a number of occasions that he has known Prime Minister Netanyahu. It's like, I've known Bibi for 40 years, and that's true. And so I think that he himself, just from my reading of it, felt that he had to go and be there and be on the ground, and he knows this issue and has such a connection to the prime minister that it was important that he is very much so, I mean, he's always involved, but leaning in and in every nitty-gritty detail of America's, not just response, but our coordination with the government of Israel. That being said, I don't know if initially folks were thinking about a domestic response, and that's what it felt like from the outside looking in. I think from people that I know who are currently inside the administration, there were voices that did raise some things about just the optics domestically. But I also know that a number of Arab Americans who serve in the administration initially did not feel as though that they were heard, that their concerns were being taken into account. You know, they raised the potential for the humanitarian issues early, and it wasn't until maybe, you know, a week later that everybody started talking about the humanitarian crisis that we all knew, if we were just watching, would be unfolding in Gaza. And so I think the thing that the administration has to keep in mind is that there is a generational divide within the Democratic Party apparatus when you talk about what is happening in the Middle East. And you've seen that in the response over the last 2 weeks. And because of that generational divide, I think there are some younger Democrats that may view the president's trip and his speech tonight differently than some older Democrats. I also think, frankly, that there are people across the country who say, yes, what Hamas did was terrible. Yes, we have to stand with and support our friends. But also, why do we have all these millions of billions of dollars for Israel and Ukraine, but we don't have money domestically? Now, people don't understand these are two separate buckets. I'm just telling y'all what the people said. I'm not saying that's how I feel. I'm just reporting on the news. And so, but that is a real sentiment. And so if you do not explain to people, or not even explain, the president, I think, did a fine job of explaining why this matters and why, you know, America can't be absent here. But last week, it was reported in the press that the $100 billion aid package would have money for Taiwan, Israel, Ukraine, and domestic priorities. We didn't hear anything about domestic priorities tonight, and I think that that will be a vulnerable spot for this White House going forward.
Yeah. Love it, to Symone's point about sort of the growing pressure from within the Democratic Party, especially among progressives and young people who want either a ceasefire or at least more done to help and protect civilians in Gaza. How big of an issue do you think that will be for Biden going forward, and what, if anything, can he do about it?
There's been a lot of polling that basically shows there is, you know, you put aside the kind of loud conversation taking place online, there is kind of broad support in the United States for Israel. There's broad support for Israel's right to defend itself. But when you look at poll after poll, you find that as you get younger, that support gets more ambivalent and it reduces. And I think that's in part because there's a lot of shorthand and assumptions that go into how we talk about Israel and America's support for Israel, and a lot of, I think, exposure to history that just hasn't happened over, say, the last 10 or 20 years. And what you see online, I think, is a lot of, I think, right-wing, pro-Israel rhetoric. And then I do think you see a lot of left-wing rhetoric that is, if not just anti-Zionist, it is anti-Semitic. I do think that there is this big space for, like, I draw a very big distinction between protesters who were at the Capitol yesterday for If Not Now, who believe in Israel's right to exist, who do not believe Israel is fundamentally illegitimate, but for the sake of the future of a democratic and Jewish state, that restraint is necessary, that Israel will not be free unless Palestine is free. Palestine will not be free unless Israel is safe. Israel will not be safe unless Palestinian people have hope for a better future. And that together, and that story, I think, is not really a story that's being told. I think that's the story Joe Biden has been telling over the past week, and even tonight, making reference to the importance of a two-state solution, making reference to the importance of the humanity of the people of Gaza. But I do think that it is that is the kind of message we need to carry, because otherwise I think there's a lot of young people who don't understand this issue, who don't understand that it is possible to believe and support Israel's right to exist and defend itself while also believing in the humanity and the dignity and the rights of people in Gaza, and the way in which people in in Gaza and the West Bank have been so poorly represented by their leadership and are not represented by a terrorist organization like Hamas. So I think that is the job, and I think that requires some nuance on the part of those of us that feel right now, I think, surprised by some of the vitriol and anti-Semitism that we see. And also the kind of quiet conversation and worry about how fragile Israel is, especially given the fears people have of what their neighbors might do or the way this conflict might escalate, while at the same time understanding that what we're hearing from the far right is not persuasive and only pushes people away from supporting the humanity of both Israelis and Palestinians.
Can I just say one other thing? Y'all can clap, because that's clap worthy. Okay? Okay? They missed their cue. They missed their clap cue. I also think that to Lovett's point, there's just a lack of, like, some of y'all missed AP World History or just World History, period. It's very clear that people were not paying attention during that section of the class, if that class even existed in your school in the first place, which is a whole nother conversation. And I would just implore people to look at the videos, to look at the pictures, to read the accounts of the young people who survived that festival on October 7th, because it is harrowing. And I feel as though a lot of people have not actually read and looked and listened and heard what actually happened, because if so, I do not think a lot of my extremely progressive friends would be so quick to say, oh, well, you know, when people are living under occupation for X amount of years, this is bound to happen. No. Two things can be true at the same time. The Palestinian, there's a very complicated situation, and the Palestinian people, they have been living under occupation, and Hamas terrorized, killed, raped, kidnapped children, babies, burned grandmothers in their homes. There is no equivalency here. And I really think we just need to pay attention and get off the damn internet, because it's harrowing. And I frankly, and the last thing I'll say is I frankly was disgusted as a young person who spent a lot of time near movement politics for a while. I have been disgusted by what I have seen from some of, not all of, but some of the activist community in equating Hamas with the struggle for, you know, Black Lives Matter here in the United States. It is, those ain't our people. The people is the Palestinians. Hamas is not your people.
Yeah. Yeah, look, two things are true. One, I think intersectional social justice movements should include concern about anti-Semitism. One. Two, separate thought, like big picture, you can support a country and its people and its ideals and dislike its leaders, right? I think a lot of people abroad love the United States, what it stands for, the people who live here. They didn't love Donald Trump, right? That's how I feel about Israel. Like I want Israel to exist. It's got an incredible dynamic people. I think it is suffering from terrible leadership under Bibi Netanyahu. And I think talking about his leadership and policy failings is an entirely different thing that we should all do and feel comfortable doing.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think it's your point about everyone getting off the internet. It's like there is a lot of bad information out there. There's a lot of incomplete information out there. There are social media algorithms that lift up the most extreme examples on both sides and force you to watch them all the time and consume them all the time. And you know what? Like, not everyone has to give their take on everything in that moment or ever. And like, this is just like, it's fog of war, and for everyone to take a breath. And like you said, like there are families and children who were massacred in Israel, and there are civilians and children and families who have been killed for nothing in Gaza right now. And there is anti-Semitism that we are struggling with, and there's Islamophobia that we're struggling with. And part of this is being able to take a beat, take a pause, give people grace who are trying to understand this and recognize that there is a common humanity here, which like the information environment we live in right now does not really allow for. And that's just something, but that we have the choice to decide to just take a beat on that. So, all right. So Biden's likely opponent in 2024, who is, he's a hard turn. He's
yeah.
Well, take a hard right.
Well, you know what? He's focused like a laser on this issue. He is as thoughtful as ever. And here's Donald Trump outside of the Manhattan courtroom where the civil fraud trial that could bring down his business empire is taking place. This was him yesterday.
But this is what we go through because they want to keep me here instead of Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and lots of other great places. They want me to be here.
Will you be back tomorrow by any chance?
Probably not. Probably we're having a very big tournament, professional golf tournament at Durrell, so probably not.
I'm stuck here. I'll be at a golf tournament.
He doesn't have to go.
Yeah, he
never needs to go.
So Trump is, of course, choosing to be in court. He seems to think these appearances are helping him. If you look at the polls, they're at least not hurting him. His crushing lead in the Republican primary keeps growing, and he's either tied or ahead of Joe Biden in nearly every recent national or swing state poll. Dan, what's going on?
Yeah,
Answer, Dan. Help us out.
Let's go. Hey, Dan, what the fuck?
I was just sitting here thinking how I had dodged having to answer really tough questions about Israel and Palestine.
Yeah, you got yours now.
So I get this one, yes.
Yeah, you got yours now.
So is the question you're asking me, why is Donald Trump becoming more appealing to swing voters after getting indicted for 91 crimes, including racketeering, overthrowing an election, and all these other things?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And like, I get the Republican primary. We know those people.
We know
They're
that,
nuts.
yeah. I'm going to give you two answers. One's more hopeful than the other. The first is the gap between people who engage with politics and the overwhelming majority of Americans has never been greater than it is right now. This is going to come as a huge shock to the people in this room, but there are millions of Americans who are going to wake up in like March and be like, holy shit, Donald Trump is running for president? They just have, like, that has not processed for most Americans yet. Most Americans have not seen Donald Trump speak since January 6, 2021. They have not. Maybe they've seen a picture of him at a courthouse. They don't really know what the context is, but that is it. And so people are not engaged with the race. And so the most optimistic glass half full take, the ones I'm most famous for, is the idea that when the race engages, the anti-MAGA majority in this country will reconstitute itself. And there are reasons to believe that, because the reason Joe Biden is losing to Trump in these polls is that Joe Biden's getting about 3/4 of the voters who voted for him in 2020, and Trump's getting about 85% of the people who voted for him in 2020. So that's the difference. And these things could both be true at the same time. The more alarming thing to think about, and it doesn't mean that Joe Biden is going to lose, now Trump's going to win, but it's something we have to think about, is I think most people who work in politics and think about politics and podcasts and politics don't fully understand the political environment we're currently in. It's a reason we keep getting everything wrong, right? It's why we thought Joe Biden was going to win by a lot, and he wins by a little. It's why we thought Democrats would get destroyed in 2022, and we pick up a Senate seat. It's why we thought Donald Trump would suffer by getting indicted 91 times, and he goes up in the polls. And there is this poll that Pew did last month that I cannot stop thinking about.
I know, you talk about it all the time.
Yeah, it just is. And I think everyone who works in politics should read it, because what it shows is the electorate right now, the American public right now, is more cynical, distrustful, and angry than it has ever been in the history of the Pew poll. 4% of Americans think the political system is working well.
And those people are absolute fucking freaks.
Yes. There are 8, the words most commonly associated when you ask people what they think about when they think about politics today, what words come to mind are angry and exhausted. 8 in 10 Americans think that politicians do not think about people like them. 85% of them think that the system doesn't work. You have the largest share of voters ever, 30% of Americans disapprove of both parties. There is something that is going on. And if we really step back and we
It seems like there's a lot of things going on.
Well, I mean, we keep asking why, when we get surprised by what has happened, we ask, like, why didn't the old models work? And we think it's just going to happen the next time. And there's something else happening. And it does, I think, if we internalize that fact, it does explain a little bit why people are so, let me put it this way. Distrust of the federal government is the highest level ever. Distrust of the Supreme Court, disapproval of the Supreme Court's highest level ever. Disapproval of Congress, highest level ever. Disapproval of the media, highest level ever. It explains a little bit why a series of indictments from government entities reported on by the media is not moving a lot of voters when it comes to Trump.
Yeah.
And I think it does have real implications for how we as Democrats think about messaging. Because we say all the time, like, this campaign is about saving democracy. And it is. Like, ultimately, if Donald Trump wins, we know what is going to happen. But if we run as the people who are trying to preserve the political system that 96% of Americans don't think is working well, that's a real problem. And I think that we're in this incredibly volatile environment, and that is lifting Donald Trump up. And we're going to have to find ways to take that into account when we think about our messaging. Because if all of our campaign is to make him seem like someone who's not a politician, outsider who doesn't get it, that's kind of how he won in 2016, and it could happen again.
I mean, I'm thinking about the point Symone made earlier, which is like, and this is a challenge for anyone who's president, right? Which is crises come up that whether they fit into your political message or not, you just have to deal with because that's the job, and you're there to make a difference and protect America. And Joe Biden's up there tonight, and he's like, yeah, $100 billion for Ukraine and Israel and the border and Taiwan. And first of all, how many people are tuned into that speech and are going to get the message? Or are they going to get the takes about the speech from both the far right and anyone on the left who is critical, right? That's number one. And then number two, if they have consumed the speech, are they going to think, well, I still feel like I'm seeing all these headlines that inflation's coming down, but the prices still seem a little high, and I still have student debt, and my healthcare is kind of expensive, and I'm like wondering, I'm seeing all this chaos in Washington, and the Republicans seem like assholes, but I also am wondering who's going to speak to me, who's going to help me. And when you start thinking about that, you're like, oh yeah, how does Biden, who's got to deal with all these international challenges because they've fallen in his lap and he has no choice, how does he do that and still have a message that says, by the way, like, I know that you're still hurting out there, but Donald Trump's going to be a disaster, and I have a better plan here. I mean,
I think he has to say all of that, but not only is Donald Trump going to be a disaster, it is not a motivational message to say, that guy sucks, vote for me.
Yeah.
Because he sucks. When candidates come on my show, I'm always like, but tell me why the people should vote for you without talking about or naming your opponent. And that is, in fact, I think, what Democrats up and down the ticket have to do. Every single member of the House of Representatives is up for re-election. 11 states are going to choose new governors, on top of the presidential, on top of key Senate races where I think the chamber, control of the chamber is going to be decided. And I think that, the press, we're not always going to ask the questions that people really want to be asked, People go on TV and you should be getting asked about the economy and the numbers when it's doing well, but it's not.
So boring.
I know, the economy not sexy.
Snooze alert.
I think that Democrats should they should do the interviews and also talk about the things that they also want to talk about, in addition to answering the questions. I also think there's a responsibility on the media apparatus to not just cover everything that is bad.
Not holding my breath on that one.
To your point earlier, Symone, I had the same thought. I keep hearing Democrats talk about how much we need a Speaker of the House, and then journalists will say why. And their answer is basically so we can shovel a bunch of money out the door to foreign countries. And listen, I worked on the NSC. I'm all on board with this spending, but the average person's like, what? And this is very funny because I do feel like we're in a bit of a role reversal here, Dan. Because back in the day, Ben Rhodes and I would come into Dan's office and he'd be like, what the fuck are you two looking for? You know what I mean? Because Dan's view on this was like any minute wasted talking about what these nerds want to talk about is like time we could be talking about something else. So normally I would think, yes, Joe Biden has to talk about Ukraine. He has to talk about what's happening in Israel and Gaza. And of course, like as president, people turn on the TV, they see scary things. They want to know you're managing it. That's fine. But also, Joe Biden just kind of like took two big guns out of the communications. Where do you keep guns?
Holsters?
Holsters? Like a...
Let's talk about slingshots.
That's where I
Guns
keep
is
mine.
killing kids.
There's just two big arrows out of the quiver. The Oval Office address in the 60 Minutes
Tweets out of your
interview.
draft folder.
The tweets out of the draft folder. And, the end of the 60 Minutes interview, they're like, are you sure you want to run again? Yes. Well, why should people vote for you? And Biden's message was basically, what if we could have peace in the Middle East and drive the Russians out of Ukraine? And again, things I really want, but I think to Symone's point, is sort of leaving out this vast domestic list of priorities that I think most Americans are really focused on.
People are like, does peace in the Middle East mean I have cheaper gas?
Yeah, maybe.
It does,
what about
yes.
them eggs
Yes, it
at
does.
the grocery store?
Yeah.
I mean, I think, normally in this, Tommy is right. I would always say that every minute talking about foreign policy was a minute lost, and a minute we would never get back.
See what we dealt with silent in the Israel-Palestine section.
But I will say, you have to talk about what everyone is thinking about. And unlike a lot of things that happen in politics, particularly that happen in international relations, this one has broken through to the American people in a very powerful way, as it should. And so doing this speech tonight is the right thing to do, in part because, some of the stuff, you asked Symone about the domestic politics of it. And I'm sure there are people who think about the domestic politics or are deeply concerned about all the things we've talked about tonight. But also, what's even more concerning is that Biden's running for re-election in the middle of a giant proxy war in the Middle East. And so if his take is my best way to prevent that from happening is to go to Israel and try to convince Bibi, and that's going to come with great risk, then that's what we do because that's the long game. And so, so I think that that's all the politics stuff, what you say is going to matter less than what's actually happening. And that's the stuff you're trying to affect both by going there and then also giving this address so that you can get the aid that will hopefully prevent the worst stuff from happening.
Yeah. Okay. So Dan wants more foreign policy speeches, and Tommy wants to talk about inflation more. When we come back, Virginia State Senate candidate Jennifer Carroll Foy.
Joining us now is former Virginia House delegate, a current state Senate candidate for Virginia's 33rd district, and a fighter for all Virginia families, and a longtime friend of the pod, Jennifer Carroll Foy. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
I imagine you have a lot on your plate these days.
Oh, just some campaigns to win, some kids to feed, light stuff.
I think we first met in 2017. We did a show in Richmond, and we came down and we did a canvas event, and we went canvassing for your campaign. And did you have 2 small children at that time?
No, I was pregnant.
That's right.
With 2 small children during my election in 2017.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I took from that visit, so this is 2017, Virginia. It is the first big election after Donald Trump has won. And all of the anger and fear and frustration that people felt was being channeled into Virginia. And when we were on the ground in Virginia, I was shocked by how much energy and excitement, momentum. There were volunteers from all over the country come in. It honestly felt like a presidential election. Mm-hmm. Here we are all these years later. How does it feel in Virginia right now?
So I think that's right. In 2017, after Trump's election, there was a ubiquitous and collective feeling of what in the hell has happened. And you saw in response a historic number of moms and social workers and teachers and people of color deciding to take the jump and run for office. Even for me, as a lonely public defender, making no money, I decided to run for the House of Delegates while pregnant with twins, winning my seat right after I gave birth to before I gave birth to my identical twin boys, flipping a seat from red to blue. because that was the feeling, that was the vibe, that was the momentum. You had support coming in from all across the country because we knew what was at stake and we needed to save democracy after we had elected one of the most bigoted and incompetent men to be leader of the free world. So now it just feels different. It feels different because people believe that Virginia is a blue state. And I like to tell—
How does your Democratic governor feel about that?
And I like to remind people that with a Republican governor and a Republican-controlled House of Delegates, we are purple at best. And we are operating at a slim margin. Our House of Delegates, Republicans control 49 to 46, and we have a Senate Democratic blue wall, 22 to 18. And we have a Republican governor who is auditioning for his presidential bid. So he is— listen, you said it. That right there. What she said. What she said. And he's made a promise to ban abortion throughout Virginia. And let's be clear, whether you call us blue, you call us purple, you do have to call us the last southern state without an abortion ban since Roe fell.
So the entire state legislature of Virginia is up for re-election November 7th. And there's a chance that in this purportedly blue state, Republicans could hold a trifecta. Help people who may not be following Virginia politics so closely understand what that would mean for the people of Virginia.
What a Republican trifecta would mean on the Virginia state level is that it would undo all of the amazing progress that Democrats have made. When Democrats got the majority, we went to work. And we expanded Medicaid, we repealed the death penalty, we passed common sense gun safety legislation, we gave teacher pay increases. What we needed to do, we did it. And that's why this is so important, because the Republicans' playbook is just to undo all the great work that we have done. So we have to acknowledge what's at stake. Abortion is on the ballot in Virginia. Book banning is on the ballot in Virginia. And let's be clear that if Governor Youngkin flips the Senate, we will have all these things happen, and it will empower other purple states to believe it can happen in their state as well. So now we're all at risk. We're all in danger. So it is so exceptionally important that we show this country what Virginia can do. And I can say I'm excited that as a delegate, I was able to carry and pass the Equal Rights Amendment so we can finally enshrine women's equality into the United States Constitution. That is on the potential ballot. When I tell you I'm excited to chief co-patron the Reproductive Health Act, removing politically motivated and medically unnecessary restrictions on people's access to abortion, that's what we got done in Virginia. So again, we have an argument to make on the state level, but let's also look at the federal. Because when the Democrats had a slim majority in the House of Representatives, what did we get done? We passed the American Rescue Plan, providing transformational, historic funds to help people navigate through COVID-19 and cut child poverty by 50%. We passed the infrastructure bill, providing millions of dollars to repair our roads, bridges, our ports, right, in order to expand rural broadband. And now Republicans have a slim majority. And what have they done? We have a budget crisis. We have a House with no leader, so no legislative progress can be made because we have no elected speaker, which, by the way, is the first time it's ever happened in our country's history. We, in less than 30 days, will have another federal government shutdown. So the choices are very clear. You're either for democratic progress or Republican extreme dysfunction.
You mentioned this, but I think it's worth digging in on a little bit. Virginia is the last safe haven for abortion access in the South. Just talk a little about what it would mean for women all across this country, people all across this country, all throughout the South, if we lose this election and Republicans put in place their 15-week abortion ban that they were one vote away from passing last cycle.
That's right. So in Virginia, they tried to ban abortion as recent as January. And the Republican governor is just 3 seats away from making it a reality. And right now in Virginia, we're a safe haven. We are a destination for so many millions of pregnant people across the South to come and be able to have that right of self-determination and bodily autonomy, to determine if, when, and how they will start a family. And all of that is on the ballot and at risk if we don't take Virginia elections seriously. Because I like to think of Virginia as the bellwether. If you care about what happens in this country, then you care about Virginia in our elections. Because it's not just about November 7th, 2023. It is really about President Biden in 2024 and whether or not Trump takes back over this country, continues to have a national abortion ban. It's really about whether we lose the Democratic majority in the U.S. Senate because Senator Tim Kaine is up in 2024, and we have to send America's dad back to D.C. to do all the good work that he is doing.
So in the 2021 gubernatorial elections, which when Governor Youngkin was elected, one of the biggest issues was parental control of education and a bunch of trumped up bullshit about critical race theory and all of that. How is that issue playing in the race this time around?
So I always like to remind people that, there's 2 things you have to give Republicans credit for. They are great at messaging, and they are strict adherents to it. And I tell you, they're very creative. Every single year is something, whether it's sanctuary cities, it's critical race theory, it is always something new and divisive that they use to gear up their base. And it's usually vitriol and hate-filled and bigoted. But at the end of the day, I can tell you that it works. And the challenge is that Republicans fall in line and Democrats fall in love. And y'all know we got to date y'all. We got to take you out. You got to see us a couple times. We got to have multiple conversations. And so that means it costs more, it's more time consuming and tedious, but we know that it's so important. And so while Governor Youngkin has shown that attacking our schools, defunding education, trying to attempt book banning, and saying that critical race theory is being taught in our classroom was effective because that's how he won, we are now seeing what their playbook is, and it's so important that we don't fall victim to what they're saying. We have to address it, but remember that it's always about the fact that we're on the right side. We're on the right side of history, we're on the right side of progress, and we have to make sure that we are on the right side when the day is done.
So the national narrative is that inflation and the economy are what are dragging down President Biden and Democrats' approval ratings. Virginia has one of the lowest unemployment rates in the country. What are you hearing from voters as you're campaigning about the economy, and what are you telling them?
So what I'm hearing right now about the economy is that Virginia, I'll be honest with you, Democrats have set us up for a lot of success. We have, I think an $8 billion surplus. We are fighting to fund our schools, give teacher pay increases, shore up our mental health services. We're doing some great things, even though we don't have the trifecta. But what I'm hearing on the doors, and I'm gonna be honest with you all, is about crime. This is the first time in any election I've ever heard strong Democrats saying that they are concerned for their safety. And I can tell you, y'all, that as Democrats, we got to do better. We cannot secede that to the Republicans. We got to get stronger messaging on how we're going to keep our communities safe. We cannot run away from that because it is real, and I'm hearing about it. And it's also abortion rights, because that is also real. And never did I think that in 2023, I would be living in a country that feels like 1953, but that's where we are as well. And lastly, because of the attacks on our schools, I'm hearing that our trans children need to be protected. Our teachers are being vilified and demonized. There will be no book banning on our watch, and we have to make sure that we protect the most vulnerable amongst us at all costs.
Okay, before I let you go, I know that every single person in this theater tonight is going to be heading to Virginia at some point in the coming weeks.
That's right.
To knock doors,
95
volunteer.
South.
So if these people want to help your campaign, they want to help Democrats prevent the Republicans from getting this triumvirate and doing all this same stuff, how can they help you and help other Democrats?
Thank you for that question. It's all about me. So at the end of the day, I'm excited to make an announcement that my campaign has donated over $150,000 to Virginia candidates up and down the ballot, from soil and water to school board to state assembly, because that's how important this election is. And then I need all of you to take out your phones, go to jennifercarrollfoy.com, and find out how you can support some of our most competitive contested races, how you can give us your time, talent, and treasure to ensure that the right thing happens and we protect democracy in Virginia, because we have to win at all costs.
Please give it up for Jennifer Carroll Foy. Thank you for being here.
Pod Save America is brought to you by Beam. Did you know that poor sleep can cause weight gain, mood issues, poor mental health, and lower productivity? Yes, 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 and yes. Sleeping less than 6 to 7 hours per night is also linked to reduced white blood cell count. You could use every last white blood cell you have. You can't have any to spare.
It's hard out there for a blood cell.
Because they help protect our body against illness, disease, fighting viruses, bacteria, and more. Sleep is also the foundation of our mental and physical health and performance in our days, and having a consistent nighttime routine is non-negotiable, which is why we use Beam Dream. Today, our listeners get a special discount on Beam's Dream Powder, their best-selling health hot cocoa for sleep with no added sugar. It's now available in delicious flavors like sea salt, caramel, cinnamon cocoa, and chocolate peanut butter. Better sleep has never tasted better. A recent clinical study revealed Dream helped 93% of users wake up feeling more refreshed, and 93% reported that Dream helped them get a more restful night's sleep. All you do is mix Beam Dream into hot water or milk, stir, or froth, and enjoy before bedtime. How many people do you think are using this and they make sure they froth it too?
Gotta froth it. You gotta froth it.
It's like, I want to sleep well tonight. I love my Beam Dream, and I also want some froth.
Yeah, it's nice to have a little froth.
Anyway, I've used it without the froth, and I've slept for days.
Yeah, you're like
someone had to
Ben
shake
Winkle.
me awake. Yeah, exactly. If you want to try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder, get up to 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/crooked and use code crooked at checkout. That's shopbeam.com/crooked and use code crooked for up to 40% off. Pod Save America is brought to you by Rocket Money. If you have no idea just how much you're spending each month, you need Rocket Money. It's this great app that tracks all of your expenses so you know exactly where your money is going. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Most people think they're spending $80 on their subscriptions, when in reality, the number's closer to $200. When you're signed up for so many things, like streaming services you use to watch one show, or free trials for delivery you don't use, it's easy to lose track of what you're paying for. Rocket Money lets you monitor all your expenses in one place, recommends custom budgets based on your past spending, and they'll even send you notifications when you've reached your spending limits. With over 3 million users and counting, Rocket Money customers have saved an average of $720 a year.
The savings are out of this world, John.
Hey.
There you go. There you go. I like it. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and manage your money the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/crooked. That's rocketmoney.com/crooked. rocketmoney.com/crooked.
They said this day would never come.
Oh no, he did it.
There are people who didn't believe we could write something longer than a tweet. We were among them. John?
Oh, we wrote a book. We wrote a book. There it is. How to Save America, Democracy or Else, How to Save America in 10 Easy Steps.
Well, you'll get it. You'll get it.
I'll figure out the name of the book.
It's the first time we've said it out loud.
It's a podcast, but you write it down. You put it on this stuff called popper.
Yeah.
Paper,
it's pronounced
and
book.
Then you go.
You should have seen us over these last months.
Oh
it was
my
brutal.
I knew writing a book was hard.
Imagine writing it with him.
I am so late with my edits.
It was like being back in the White House again.
And so angry when anyone moves a fucking comma.
Anyway, it's a fantastic book. It's illustrated, so it'll go quickly. It's funny. It basically, a lot of the stuff we've said on the podcast and a lot of advice that we've gotten from people much smarter than us, politicians, activists, organizers, appears in the book. We're doing interviews with a lot of those people. Those will appear in the book too. So it's,
Big names we're not ready to say yet.
And the best part is, Crooked Media, we're donating the profits to help support Vote Save America and other 2024 campaigns. And it's going to be released June 4th, 2024, just in time.
Just in time for the 2024 election and the 2025 insurrection.
Just in time. It's a handy guide to help you through it.
Yeah.
And you can order it now. You can pre-order now at crooked.com/books or wherever books are sold.
Clap for that. Our request to you is, listen, Don Jr., Kellyanne Conway, Stephen Miller, one of them is going to have a book out at the same time. What they're going to do is have either their father or a right-wing interest group like Harlan Crow buy 100,000 of them. We can't let them beat us on the New York Times bestseller list. So please, 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 pre-order the book.
And again, profits going to good causes. Good causes.
Yeah.
All right.
That's it.
That's
Book announced. Okay. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. All right. On that note, please welcome to the stage a man who has done his part to get Washington insiders to stop talking for minutes at a time by stuffing their faces and by being a force for good. Please welcome the chef and founder of the new Global Food Institute at George Washington University, our friend José Andrés. Man.
All right. Hi. Hola.
The man.
All right. Okay. Don't get too excited. I'm not cooking tonight.
All right. Well, now you've lost them.
Don't you boo him.
They're living now. Bye.
So,
I think I'm overdressed.
We had Fetterman. You're not overdressed. We had Fetterman.
It's great.
Yeah.
That guy wears shorts to a wedding. It's actually ridiculous. I'm just kidding. So you founded your nonprofit, World Central Kitchen, after the Haiti earthquake in 2010. World Central Kitchen is now the biggest food aid organization operating in Ukraine. You recently said about your work there and what it's like to be there, that you can be afraid and fearless at the same time. What did you mean by that?
Well, listen, Ukraine, for me personally, has been a before and after. And has been a before and after because, I'm a cook that feed the few. Washington, D.C. was my home for the last 30 years. Washington, D.C. is the place I met my beautiful wife, who gave me everything I am. But I never imagined that I will be in a situation that, used with the simple fact of trying to feed people, I will lose people. World Central Kitchen lost 6 people in the simple act of feeding people. Only because we have one person called Putin, I will not use the name president, that decided the best action was to try to kill as many civilians, women, children, and elderly as possible. And for me, this has been a life-changing event. Because now, in more ways than one, I give meaning to life in ways I never thought I would. Because it takes you to go through a process like this to understand what you're here for. What we're here for is to understand that we will never change anything we see in the world that is not right without taking risk, speaking up, and have boots on the ground. We can all clap every time everybody gives a speech. But if that speech is not followed by people that really are on the ground making change happen, nothing will ever change. We lost 6 people, and I wanted to pull out World Central Kitchen out of Ukraine. And the Ukrainians told me, Jose, we are here with you or without you. But with World Central Kitchen, we will be better. We all need to take risk to make change happen. At the end, you learn that life starts at the end of your comfort zone. It's good to have good times in the good times, but sometimes we all need to get to the edge of our comfort zone to make meaningful, real change. I don't know if this answers the question you asked me, but this is
it worked for me. It does.
all I have to say about that.
So, I was also just interested to hear, because I think, we hear a lot about the importance of getting humanitarian aid to Gaza and the obstacles to doing that and what stands in the way of that happening. You've actually been operating in Gaza. You also have World Central Kitchen is also in Egypt, Jordan, and in Israel. Can you just talk about what is happening right now and what you can do, what you want to do?
Well, many people know that I will be there by now, but me, I like to go in the moments that I believe I can make meaningful change. But right now we are doing already meaningful change. The first thing we did was going to Israel because it was the right thing to do in the very early hours after Hamas, the terrorist organization, not the Palestinian people, Hamas, the terrorist organization, did an attack that should never happen. And we were there next to restaurants and next to Israeli and Jewish people, just doing what we do, supporting them. Even they were organizing themselves very well. At the same time, many times before we've been in Gaza, we've been with an organization called ANERA, who they do an amazing job. You don't know who to support, ANERA.org is a great organization. And we're able to support them because American people like you support us. And if you see my tweet on World Central Kitchen, you will see that we were delivering today fresh fruits and vegetables and water and other things. Why? Because ANERA is already inside. And every time everybody asks me in emergencies, where do you get the food? They're like, well, from the food warehouses. Obviously, the situation there is very terrible. But still, we have ways to be buying from farmers that they don't know who to buy. But if you are able to buy from them, still they have tomatoes and eggplants and things you can sell. You can buy and you can give away. And so the situation is dramatic. We have teams positioned right now in Egypt, but we are you need to understand the World Central Kitchen is the organization nobody sees coming. We're unofficial. We don't partner with governments. But we are in Egypt because we are positioning ourselves behind the UN envoys to go in as soon as it's safe and we are able to go. Why are we in Jordan? Because Jordan has very good connections with all Palestine and Israel, and we have good friendships with a lot of people in Jordan, and if we can, we're going to be sending things into Cisjordania from Jordan, but also using planes to ship to Egypt, and from there go inside Gaza. And we are obviously waiting in Israel to hopefully things become peaceful, where nobody is shooting at anybody, where nobody is killing anybody, where we believe in longer tables, where we all respect each other, give empathy to each other, give dignity to each other, and where weapons of destruction will never have, ever again, a place on earth. We keep fighting each other for things that sometimes doesn't make sense. I'm sure many of you, I have friends that are obviously Catholics like me. Good thing about Catholics, I go on Sunday and I ask for forgiveness and I'm clean again. It's a great religion to have.
You gotta go every week. Jews go once a year.
But then I have friends that are...
You're paying retail.
I have friends that are Jewish, and I have friends that are Muslim, and I have friends that are other religions. And when we are together, we the people. Together, respecting each other, learning from each other. Let's all believe we can build a better world and learn from the mistakes that sometimes our leaders make on our behalf. We need better people in leadership. And you know one thing? What we need is more women in leadership. Why? Because nobody knows what it is to be a mother and give birth. And with that, I mean it seriously. We keep losing people around the world because I don't think men understand the magic and the difficulty of giving birth to life. Let's make sure we put people in the world that believe that we need to be respecting every human life. That's the least we can be asking from every one of our leaders.
Last question. Speaking of which, you've threatened to run for office before. You have, and you just this week you just put it out there. There was a representative named Andy Harris who represents a district in Maryland, and
shit!
And you said you said I love.
Come on, you need to clap for Andy Harris. Oh my God, I love you.
You said something. First of all, this is the most like you've ever sounded like a politician. That this district in Maryland is a place with great hardworking people. Then you said one day. You said one day I will. Okay. All right. Sure. Why not?
I am from Spain, and we do bullfighting.
Okay.
Sorry. So keep going. I didn't want to interrupt you.
You didn't want to interrupt me?
I apologize.
What does it look like when you want to interrupt me?
I've been in Washington, D.C. 30 years, man. Don't you see Congress?
You said, one day I will run there just to unseat him. What are you waiting for?
Yeah! Come on, Jose! Do it!
I barely know how to cook. You want me to run for Congress?
They don't know how to cook either.
Yeah.
Congressman Harris is a great guy. I mean, he's a great guy. I mean, what can I say? I mean, I don't vote in... Oh, yeah, I vote in Maryland, but I don't vote in his district. Listen to me.
We've got to work out the details, it seems.
But let me tell you, I mean... Let me
we'll
tell
find
you
a district.
let me tell you.
We run people all the time who
I
aren't
know,
from where they say
but
they
understand,
are.
but you need to understand, Congressman Harris, right? I mean, I think he's Republican.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot of Republicans in the room. And imagine, he is a congressman of a district that the main thing are blue crabs.
True.
Blue crabs, and he is red. Has to be hard. We should support him, send him to the psychologist or something. It's not easy. He only cares about the crabs once they're cooked and become red. But you cannot have red without blue. That's the meaning of bipartisanship, but he doesn't get it.
Sounds like an announcement speech.
And then
I love this.
He's the guy that doesn't want immigrants, but then all the crab guys that they need people to clean the crab meat don't have people to clean the crab meat because they don't let immigrants in the country. This guy is brilliant. I mean, Steven Spielberg and Ron Howard and everybody should hire this guy. He will make the most funny movies in the history of mankind. You want to support your crab industry in Maryland? Don't let immigrants come in. Why? Because we don't have enough employees to pick up the crap. That's crap! And that's the issue with him. I'm sure he's a decent man.
You gotta stop saying that
I'm
part.
sure he's a good husband, a good doctor, if you are a Republican. But he doesn't understand crap business. Therefore, I'm not running for congressman because I don't have time, but somebody should be running on the Maryland 1st District to unseat that congressman because the people of Maryland don't deserve him. And that's all I have to say about that.
Well,
fantastic.
And it was well said. Before we let you go, you've graciously agreed to play with us a very brief game. Symone and Dan are going to come back out to join us.
Here.
Now,
you are calling me short? No, nothing.
No. You can have the floor.
Do you understand my English?
100%.
Has my English getting better in the last 30 years?
Oh yeah, it's
American education system works.
So here's what we're going to do. because you are a world-renowned chef, we are going to do something disgusting. Here's what's going to happen. We are going to rank together 5 TikTok food trends from 5th to 1st, from worst to best, from the one you would want the least to the one you'd be willing to eat, okay? You're going to have to choose which of these things is the one you'd want to eat the most.
I am free to choose?
Here's the twist. They're blind rankings. In other words, we're going to show you one, and you're going to have to rank it from 1 to 5, but you don't know what's next. You don't know if you give something 5, you don't know how much worse what will follow will be.
Are you trying to undermine my position with my people? This is my city. Okay. I'm in your team.
Okay. You can take over at any time. You can just tell, we can do whatever you want, but we're going to try this until you tell us stop. All right. Here we go. First up, cheesy ramen from hell.
Place our ramen noodle into the dish. And the last one here, let's start off with a little bit of matzah. Let's just cover the whole thing with cheddar. Let's get these open.
Oh.
Scissors. So sprinkle these packets all the way across.
So
We're gonna take our tomato sauce. Pour this
that's
all
tomato
over
sauce.
and then
All right, we can leave it there. We can leave it there. José Andrés, you're world renowned for your inventiveness with food, your exploration of food.
1 to 5, 1 being the
best.
best or the worst.
The best. One is the
The best of the worst of the worst. I mean, it's like Congressman Jordan or.
Yes. So here's the thing. That's right. So basically, we're giving you 5 of the worst things that you could ever make Speaker of the House, and you're gonna have to pick which of these is the best of the worst.
So do you want me to do a slam dunk? I think Jordan, Speaker to be Jordan is the worst guy called Jordan. He'll never even be able to do a slam dunk.
Well, now we're just
He's the first Jordan.
You'd put Jordan in this as like a 5 because you're like, there's no one worse than him.
So 1 is the best of the best, but you want me to rate the best, but this will be the okay. So
here's the thing.
I get it. This is like politics, people. We never understand anything.
Here's the good news.
Vote for me because I'm gonna be known protecting your rights, and we know who those people are. All right.
I'm gonna need a number between 1 and 5. That's really
Okay.
at the end of the day. That's all you'll have to do.
People of Washington, because we believe in democracy. If you were me, what will you vote? A 1 or a 5?
3, yeah, do 3. 3, let's do
Bye-bye,
3.
stop it!
I see a lot of 3s.
We suck at democracy.
It's a 3?
I'm taking over. I'm going with a 4.
4. All right.
Yeah.
4. Well, that's
I'll go quicker next.
There's optimism in that. All right, so cheese ramen.
Oh, this was cheese ramen? Oh, shit.
Let's see.
Hold on. Where is the cheese from?
It's
from Wisconsin? Or from California? This is getting complicated.
Jose, the cheese is from a fucking bag. Next clip.
Everybody's so creative. If you don't have time to stand up over the stove with all these different pots and pans to wash in the end, just do a 1-pot meal. Get yourself some tortilla shells.
So it's a block of Velveeta.
You see that? That's a big
It's
raw. Put it
so
right
it's
in the
sort of
middle.
Jose. What I thought you'd appreciate about this is I think this is inspired by you because this is a deconstructed burrito.
Hold on. Who are you rating? The TikToks or me?
Listen, you're not on. Listen, you know where. We can't find you on this scale.
Oh my God. It's a lot of red sauce in this podcast.
Sorry. So it's more. So you're saying it's a little too southern.
I was expecting more blueberries.
Yeah, you want
more blueberries, but okay. I'm sorry. Okay, guys. What do you think this is? Better or worse?
I mean,
what are we thinking?
Oh, shit. I don't know, because the cheese ramen was bad. We didn't let her finish.
It didn't get better.
I know you disagree with me, but I am a centrist at heart. I'm putting her at number 3 because I'm giving myself room
You got to give
become
room.
a Speaker of the House.
Good call.
Which, by the way, you don't need to be American to be a Speaker of the House.
I thought the speaker analogy would help us. Let's see what's next. This is called leprechaun chicken.
Oh no, is that chicken?
And now we're just gonna dredge it lightly in this seasoned flour here, and then straight into our buttermilk, and then from the buttermilk,
it's
right
sort of like
down
a
into
chicken
those crumbs.
hand.
Those Cheetos crumbs.
Being-
It's
that?
gonna
What's
create a
That's.
nice,
I think it's going to get
cheesy,
some sort of a
crunchy
crust.
texture. And now we're gonna skewer it, octopus chicken.
So it's sort
tender
of. Oh,
on
now
a
they.
skewer.
Now the
We're gonna
chicken
put it
hands are getting
gently
deep
over to
fried.
our oil here. We're gonna gently remove them from the oil, shake the excess off onto our plate here. All right, what do we have here?
There's
We've
also a
got
face that you get to dip it in.
Complete it.
It's sort of a face.
The fuck?
Do you see? It's like a little beard of chicken. Oh my God. So this is festive. All right. So it's a leprechaun. You see? By the way, this is called Chef's Club, which I think you're a member of.
You know one thing, guys?
What y'all mean, one?
I am sorry, but I didn't
What
ask
do
you
y'all mean
for your
one?
opinion this time. But
What do they mean, one?
Oh God, no.
yeah, but you sound like a lobby right now.
I'm lobbying for it not to be one. That ain't the best.
And I follow you, lobby, but let me tell you, if we serve this food in Congress, they will pass immigration reform. They will pass the farm bill that they will pass school lunches for every children. And we will have some senators and congressmen will leave the country immediately to Mexican vacation after a hurricane. All right, okay.
And again,
you want me to-
again, Jose, it's a number 1 through 5.
No. What I'm gonna do is this, because still I need to give myself room.
I know.
And I'm following your guidance and your expertise. I'm gonna give it a 2.
I think that's fair.
Tommy, how do you feel about that? You feel good about that?
I respect the 2.
You feel good about that too?
Please
Two.
pray
Chicken
for
hand.
us, whatever religion you are, because what is about to come can be the end of America.
All right, let's see what's next. Oh, this is
I've been dying to try this viral fruit roll-up ice cream situation. You just take a fruit roll-up, put
fruit
some
roll-ups
ice cream
and
in the
ice
middle,
cream.
and then wrap it up. Within seconds, the fruit roll-up gets
What is in
hard
that?
and crunchy and amazing.
So this is a dish. This is a
One.
dish.
I think
This
this
is
is
a
not bad.
dish. Could be a 1. Could be a
What the heck?
1.
I mean, listen, every time I go to a hurricane, the best moment in my life, 2, 3, 4 days later, when there is, stop it, where there is destruction, is one moment that the rainbow comes. And that's a happy moment because it's like things began running and functioning better. I like this one because it's been the shortest and the quickest.
I was afraid the rainbow meant you were going back to the leprechaun chicken.
Everybody can understand. I'm going for 1.
Okay. That's the right choice.
Who doesn't like fruit?
No one.
And a roll, and an up, and ice, and cream. I am creating the new political party, Fruit Roll Up Ice Cream Party. Okay, let's see what we got for number 5 because you didn't give me any option.
I think you'll see that your strategy, I think, has paid off. Let's see what's the final option. It is counter nachos.
And we're just gonna completely get it all make this really
Yeah, that's right.
wide. Let's spread it around.
That's right. Counter nachos.
Really good. Okay. Then we're gonna do. I like to.
No!
Right there.
Don't do that.
Is that ground beef?
Yeah, and then there's the olives.
That beef look burned. This is why I don't participate in those potlucks at work. It's right here.
We need a wall, people. We need a wall.
Wow.
Donald Trump, where are you?
It turns so quickly. All right.
How did that end?
How does this end?
I'm just like, how does someone pick
With
that
E.
up?
coli.
Yeah.
It ends with a trip to the urgent care.
You are not telling us the entire story.
Oh.
What is the ending?
The
Counter
ending,
nachos.
It's counter nachos. You eat the nachos off the counter. Have you not been? Have you never, as a
Yeah.
chef, decided to use the counter to?
Yeah, when I do my manicure, but especially when I do my pedicure, that's what I do with my feet. Because the nachos and the cream and the cheese gives you this extra layer of silkiness to your nails, and they don't break. I mean, they don't break. And it's very good to your hair. When you have blonde hair and you do like this, you do nachos, cheese.
Is that?
Yeah, it's a couple of guys on TV often, in a couple of
Well, it looks
courts
good.
that they do nachos.
It's good for the skin.
Yeah, cheese, yeah.
I can't believe this is where we're ending the show.
So,
I have the perfect spot.
So people counter nachos, I think, this is what's wrong with democracy. Because now they don't give me any other option. What if I want to change my political views on the chicken hands?
Well, and unfortunately, that's the system we have to do the best we can inside of. Counter Nachos 5, Cheesy Ramen 4, Deconstructed Burrito in the style of José Andrés. I'm sorry, I take that back. That was a horrible thing to say. I take it back. 3, 2, chicken hands. And number 1, with a bullet, fruit roll-up ice cream, which we would actually like. Support World Central Kitchen and their incredible work around the world. José Andrés, thank you so much.
That's our show for tonight. Thank you, John Fetterman.
People
Thank you,
of
Jennifer Carroll
America.
Foy. Thank you, José Andrés. And thank you, Symone Sanders. And thank you, Washington, D.C. Go buy Democracy or Health.